What you need in the building. I'm what you need. You're watching my channel. If you like what you're seeing, you can like, share, subscribe. You can donate via PayPal. The link is in the description. We're going to talk about the Crawford versus Madrimov card and what I think about it. Okay. Now, I know they're saying this is the greatest card, in a long time. It's really packed and blah, 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 blah. And we're going to go through it and see if the hype is real or if it's just a bunch of people kissing Crawford's ass and always saying positive things about Crawford's opponents because guess what? We really don't know these guys. All right. It is what it is. This is the card we're looking at. I'm going to use this instead of the it's the card right there. Can you see it? I don't know why it's looking like that, but that's it. So for some reason, the camera is not taking up. Maybe I need to angle it a certain way. Maybe so crazy. There you go. All right, it's much better there. Okay, so let me see if I can get more control over my hand. All right, this is the card here. You see Crawford versus Madrimov, Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela, so known as Raul Valenzuela, Tim Zhu versus Virgil Ortiz, Andy Cruz versus Jarrell Miller, uh, David Morrell versus what's this guy's name? Radivo Dejala Djedic. I don't know who the fuck he is. And then you got Andy Cruz versus Antonio Moran. All right, that's the entire card. And that'll be August the 3rd of this year. That card is going to come out. All right, so let's talk a little bit about this card. All right, so the first thing I want to do is I have to ask myself the question: who is this guy, Israel Madrimov? Right? Who is Israel Madrimov? Well, Israel Madrimov is undefeated. He has a 70% knockout ratio. He's had one draw. That's against a gentleman known as Michel Soro, who's a Frenchman at 154. Good fighter, by the way. And he's also the current, if I'm not mistaken, WBA super welterweight champion. He recently won it against Magomed Korbanov, who's a decent fighter, decent boxer. He stopped him in the 5th round. When he fought in Riyadh. Sorry, he fought in Riyadh. So that fight took place in Riyadh. It was. Let me see. Hold on a second. Let me see. It happened in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, and it was on the card with Ray Vargas versus Nick Ball. Zili Zhang lost to Joseph Parker on that card. We had Anthony Joshua who stopped Francis Ngannou. So this card happened last month. And he was on the undercard of that card, and he won the WBA title, the 154-pound title that Jamal Charlo has since vacated. He won that title. Okay, what do I know about him? Well, the only person I recognize on his resume is Michel Soro. Now, in 2021, he managed to stop Michel Soro. I thought it was prematurely stopped, but nonetheless, he did hurt Michel Soro. He stopped Michel Soro. They rematched, and it was a technical draw because there was a clash of heads in the 3rd round. So they ended up in a technical draw. Michel Soro, of course, is a solid fighter. Not top tier, but he's a solid fighter. So anyway, the point is this guy, they're saying he's solid because he's strong. I've seen him. I don't particularly think he's anything special. Um, so they're saying he's a tough contender, because he's been fighting a lot of European guys. Um, this is a good opponent for Terrence Crawford to showcase his skills on. He's more of a showcase fight, I would say, for Terrence Crawford. People saying he's not no easy guy to steam over, but he don't really have any great set of speed. He doesn't really have great combination. He's just he's not a tomato can, but he is the average boxer or average fighter out there that just became world champion, which is kudos to him on that because he did it within 8 fights. But um, he hadn't really faced anybody. And when he did step up and face Michel Soro, they fought to a draw. I know the fight was prematurely stopped, but nonetheless. So I don't put I don't particularly I don't particularly I don't particularly see this as anything challenging to Terrence Bud Crawford, to be honest with you. The fight that really, I guess, is good for the card, and I think the Prince picked this, was Tim Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz. I favor Tim Tszyu to win, but I really don't know how that fight would play out. So that is intriguing to me. I would be interested to see how Virgil Ortiz handles Tim Tszyu. These are two smart fighters, and they have power. So I'd be interested to see how that fight pans out. I'm a little tired. Andy Cruz versus Jarrell Miller. Non-title heavyweight fight. It's good at least to see, two heavyweights. Andy Cruz is a very good heavyweight, as we all know. Andy Ruiz, sorry, my bad. Jarrell Miller, he did have a great performance against Daniel Dubois. So I guess he'll look to rebound and see if he can do something against Andy Ruiz. Andy Ruiz is a very busy fighter. So it'll be very interesting. I mean, both of them are usually busy fighters. It'll be interesting. Andy generally fights taller guys. This is a guy who's big, size-wise, he's big, but in terms of activity, he's also quite active. I don't know how this will go. I would favor Andy to win, but I don't really know how it'll go. We'll have to see. What I can say is that as a heavyweight fight, it's a good fight. It's not a great fight because it's not a fight we're itching to see. You know what I mean? But it's an all right fight. David Morrell versus this guy whose name I can't even pronounce, who comes from the United States. Don't know the guy who David Morrell's fighting. So telling me this is the greatest card ever, one of the greatest card for this year, really, what are you saying? All right. I don't know if it's a mismatch or not, but I don't know the guy. See, the thing with these guys, they have to understand, even if you're introducing a new guy, I could do my homework on this guy, whatever his name is, and see what's up with him. But what if he's just fodder for David Morrell? What if he's just fodder? I don't know. But I don't know the guy. You get what I'm saying? So you can't say this is the greatest card ever just because David Morrell is on it, Andy Ruiz is on it, Tim Tszyu on it, Virgil Ortiz is on it, Isaac Cruz is on it with Jose Valenzuela. We know both of them, right? But I got Cruz beating Valenzuela, hands down. But nonetheless, just because these guys' names are on it doesn't make it the greatest card ever. We've had this before. We've had cards where we have names on them, but they're not facing. It's like stay busy fights or featured fights. And this is what I'm feeling like this is. There are two competitive fights on here, I think. But even if they're competitive, they're not. You could pick the winner. It's like, okay, Terrence Crawford versus Israel Madrimov, right? Madrimov brings nothing special to the table, but size, probably, right? He's not this great knockout artist. He's strong, but he's not a great knockout artist. He's none of that. And he hasn't had a whole lot of fights. He hasn't had a whole lot of fights to be proven with. So it's like, even though we're talking about these guys, it's like, this is the greatest card ever. You're hyping up something that's not that hyped. Okay? Pitbull Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela is not as exciting a fight as Jose Valenzuela versus Edwin De Los Santos, which is not happening now. So Jose Valenzuela was supposed to face Edwin De Los Santos. We were thinking on the Tank versus Frank Martin card, but that ain't happening anymore. And so Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela, it's not as balanced. It's not as Isaac's a different level. Anyway, but that don't get me excited. I'm glad Isaac Cruz is on the card. I know it's going to be a championship fight. I know it's going to be a fight at 140. So Jose Valenzuela is fighting at 140. He's not going to be 40. Or is he fighting at 135? I don't know what weight class they're fighting at. Isaac Cruz is a champion at 140. So I guess Valenzuela is moving up to 140 to fight Isaac Cruz, which again doesn't work in Valenzuela's favor. You know, he should be fighting De Los Santos at 135. Anyway, whatever. Tim Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz. Just a good fight. This is the only fight probably on this card. Yeah. This is the only fight on this card that I could say genuinely that could be a 50-50 fight. You know, because you have an undefeated fighter, and you have another fighter who would have been undefeated if not for an incident. I still favor Tim Tszyu in this fight, but it's more of a 50-50 fight than all the others, right? David Morrell versus whoever this guy's name is. Sounds like a feature fight again. And Andy Cruz versus Antonio Moran. That's straight up a feature fight. I mean, Antonio Moran's been knocked out. I mean, Antonio Moran's been on a tear for of late, but still, Andy Cruz is going to beat Antonio Moran. That's another feature fight. So people are making a big deal about this. I'm glad you got all these big names on these fights, but not all of these fights are competitive. And then the guys they're fighting, we don't even know who they are. So that you got to understand something, okay? Fight fans want to know who's facing who, because once you know who's facing who, okay, all right, yeah, this is top level. But if I'm facing a guy out of the clear blue sky that just pop up on the scene, you know, I can do a little homework on the guy, see how he fights and everything. And then if I look at the guy, see how he fights, he's nothing special, really. Hard worker, but nothing special. It don't get me excited. So the featured bout, which is Crawford versus Madrimov, this is for Crawford to pick up a title. He don't have to sleep on Madrimov like how Haney slept on Garcia. But what I'm saying is, this fight is almost like a stay busy fight for Crawford. I hate to say it like that, but you know, it just helps him to get a title. It's not like Crawford versus Tszyu. Crawford versus Tszyu, that would have been an interesting fight. You know, Crawford versus Fundora. Interesting because if Fundora uses a jab, you know, but not really interesting at the same time. So the bar is kind of high. And then Crawford just came off of facing Errol Spence and doing a great job on him. But it's almost like Crawford's getting the dregs. Like he can't get the big names. And this dude is the dregs. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So Crawford will be facing Madrimov. And Crawford's respecting Madrimov and saying a lot of good things about him. But I'm sorry, Madrimov. I don't see Madrimov doing anything to Crawford. His best competition, and the person I know, is Misha Soro. And yeah, he did stop him the first fight, but the second fight, it ended up in a draw. So I don't know, man. Tim Tszyu versus Virgil Ortiz is a good fight. Andy Ruiz versus Jerome Miller is a good fight. It's not a great fight. You know what a great fight card would be? It's where actually the fight card that started off the year, even though the main event was sort of anticlimactic, because if you had Thurman versus Tszyu would have been a better profile fight than Zoo versus Fundora. Okay, but it ended up that way. But the co-main event and going back down, all these championship fights at the highest level, high competition, facing high competition, I thought was good. In fact, the whole card was lit as far as I was concerned. This card, potentially, I don't know. Potentially, the good fights on this card are Zoo versus Ortiz and Ruiz versus Jarrell Miller. They're both not championship fights. So the guys are top guys, but they're not at the top level. And the championship fight, I'm sorry, it's anticlimactic for me. I'm not itching to see that. All right. I'm not itching to see Andy Cruz beat Antonio Moran or David Morrell beat whatever this guy's name is. I can't even pronounce his name. You know what I mean? I'm not itching for that. Isaac Cruz versus Jose Valenzuela is sort of like anticlimactic because I really wanted to see De Los Santos face Valenzuela because of the to and fro and the fact how they're kind of equally matched. With Cruz versus Valenzuela, it's not as equally matched. Okay, I favor Cruz to win by quite a distance, maybe even stopping Valenzuela. So it's a jump up. It's a huge jump up for Valenzuela. He has to climb into weight. He has to go up to this new weight class and all of that. And yes, he gets a chance at the championship. But I would have preferred Isaac Cruz versus Ishmael Barroso as the co-main event. That would have been better. Because Barroso has been at super lightweight for a while, and he deserved a shot at the title. And so, but now we're getting this, which is kind of sad because Jose Valenzuela, he has to jump up a weight class to take on Isaac Cruz, and he already is kind of chinny. That's not cool. It just, it doesn't, it's anticlimactic to Edwin De Los Santos versus Raul Valenzuela. I'm just saying. So, what do I think of this fight card? They're saying it's the greatest fight card. Just stop with the superlatives, okay? Stop with it. I get what y'all are trying to do because the Prince is putting on a card. It's conservative. It's an okay card. Right? It's nothing earth-shattering. It's an okay card where Crawford gets to be on it, and he gets to fight Madrimov. Now, the Prince was saying if he couldn't get Madrimov, he was going to try and set him up with David Benavidez, who David Benavidez is already fighting on the time card against Gvozdyk at 175. So I think that this is a good start for the Prince with the Riyadh season. The Riyadh season. So it's a good way to start. And I guess the Riyadh season is now going to be in America. So it's a good launch. It's not spectacular, like how these people are, how they're cooning. But it's all right. It's all right. And it'd be nice to see how Crawford performs at 154. And that's pretty much it. And he's got the ideal opponent to see how well he can do at 154. So that's basically what I got there. I'm what you need. You are watching my channel. If you like what you're seeing, don't forget you can like, share, subscribe, and you can also donate via PayPal. The link is in the description. I will catch you guys later. What you need is out.